Yo, what up? It's your boy, MC Franco Magdalene, the Street Catholic of the Cross. Yeah, I am making this video because I got some big announcements, really big ones that I think I should announce, prior to doing so, just in case y'all might have ever be wondering. So, it's regarding my music and the future of Street Catholic Records and the direction that I'm taking it to. Taking them to, plus my faith journey. So, they all go hand in hand. Like I said, I do not compartmentalize my faith. I involve Christ, involve my faith in everything I do, every aspect of my life, including music, and being a record label owner. So, here it goes. Okay. Since I've already reached a milestone in 20 albums, which thanks be to God. God is awesome because it was Him, it was through His grace that I did this. I could not have released 20 albums in only like a year and a half worth of time. That's crazy. I would have never thought that could happen to me. That's just stuff that doesn't go with me. But I'm really thankful for it, even though I don't understand. But that's all right. I don't need to. All I need to do is just be thankful. So the fact that I have 20 albums is, I made some changes over time and everything, but 21 albums because I saw the direction of my lyrics and everything, things I've been doing. So guess what? First of all, I am going to take a break on recording because here's what I'm going to do. Here's the reason why. Nothing's wrong with me or anything, but this is what I'm going to do. This is going to be on some CEO business that, as you know, that I did unfortunately have to get a new label account and everything because I was locked out of my other one, but all that's solved and everything. But I already had I renamed it the New and Uncompromising Street Catholic Records. So I'm going to rename it again just a little since it really isn't a new version. So I'm just going to call it the Uncompromising. Excuse me if I said untouchable, but I don't know what I say. I mean, my brain just doesn't really, my lips don't really think what my mind does. So forgive me, so it's, instead of the New and Uncompromising Street Catholic Records, it's going to be just called the Uncompromising. I'm going to do a little bit of doctoring with the photo, but it's going to be the same. So that's just what it's going to be. So here's what we're going to do is that, because you understand, even though I finally regained a couple months ago access to the original Street Catholic record label account, and so which means I have 4 albums on that one, and plus, it's connected to my artist account of my first 10 albums that I remastered from both, very first from SoundCloud and then from DistroKid, everything I remastered. But I'm remastering everything from Catholic Reaffirmation all the way to the Battle Rages on 2, Spiritual Warfare. Onto the current account, which is currently named the New and Uncompromising Street Catholic Records. I'm going to put that all on there because even though it's an artist account, I had no idea. Like I said before, I had no idea you can run an artist account as a label. You can still manage others' music or whatever, so in this case I would do it. But here's why I'm doing it, because I don't need to have so many accounts. So if I do all that, I'm actually, since it's an artist account, I'm still allowed to enable the buy full discography, which means everyone can buy my whole discography on one account and they don't have to look for separate ones or whatever. So, and the pricing is going to be, I'm only going to ask for, if you're a follower of mine, it's going to be $50 for every one of my albums, all combined, which includes 5 double lengths, because you understand, of course, I have a few double lengths album, quite a few. I got about 5 of them, if I'm doing the math right, which is going to include so all 20 albums for $50. full length, except for my Street Catholic one, the extended play or EP, however you want to say it, but all five double lengths, and then and plus all the rest of them that are full lengths, so you know, I mean, I want to make it easier, and every time I put out a new album, I'm only gonna raise the price for my full discography $2. That's all I'm gonna do, because I want to play fair, so for $50, then so yeah, if you're a follower of mine, and it's of course it's absolutely free to be a follower of anyone on Bandcamp. So, which means once you're a follower, you're automatically eligible to buy my full discography. So that's what I'm gonna do because I'm gonna shut down my original label account, my artist account, because all my albums I'm just gonna remaster, and it's gonna take me a few weeks, probably about 3-4 weeks, because I only work, which is either recording or whatever doing, because my music Monday through Thursday, and I can only and due to a brain condition and other conditions, is that I can only I can only upload one album a day, so that's what I'm gonna do. And then because, I do have to put my mental health and everything, and all my other health and everything, and my well being first priority, along with my spiritual, with God, number one. But after that, it's going to have to, after God, because God comes before all in my life, but after God, my mental health is going to have to be first priority because it's my responsibility to take care of myself and not overdo it, not trigger, because I do get sensory overload, because that's very common in people with, old TBIs or whatever you want to call it. But, I gotta, so, so like I said, this is a part-time thing. So, but every day, Monday through Thursday for the next few weeks until I get all 14 albums, my first 14 albums, because you understand from San Francisco Diocese all the way to the newly released Neighborhood Street Catholic. Those are already on my new label account, on the new Street Catholic Records, the new one Uncompromised Street Catholic Records, so, and then, so it's going to be every day I'm going to upload one album starting in the order of when they came out. So that's just what I'm going to do. And after that, I'm going to shut down all of them, my other account, both of them, my original label, Street Catholic Records account, and the MC Franco Magdalene, so that's what I'm going to do before I start recording again. And it's going to take me probably about a month, so bear with me on that. But after that, here's the big announcement, is that I will no longer be known as MC Franco Magdalene, the Street Catholic of the Cross. Yeah, I made some changes. I've added on, but I'm going to make some changes. So here's what I'm going to, it's like, because I am going to, because after that, I'm going to start recording an album, a 15-track album called Dead to the World. And from then on, I'm going to be named, my new artist name is going to be Pio Aquinas, Trentitional Street Catholic of the Cross. And I'll explain that name. Pio Aquinas is a combination of the words pious and Aquinas, which is the pious part, is after St. Pius X, who really condemned modernism and then firmly enforced what a real heresy it really is, and did not want it in the church in his day. He was very firm. He did not care who hated him, the backlash, or who, or who, I mean, he allowed people and everything, but just the modernist ways, he was not putting up with it in his days. And he had the backbone of steel, which, fortunately, a lot of clergy, not to be mean, but a lot of clergy has lost that. I'm not saying they all did. There are some, but since I've learned more about him, you know, yeah, Pope St. Pius X, he was the Pope in the early 1900s, and he died during the First World War, which he likely died of heartbreak because it was just all sudden his health started breaking down really bad, and then he just died. So that's how his death, and then so because it did break his heart to see like all the modernism, that he had to really put his foot down and everything and saw what it was doing to the world. And then how Europe was in shambles. Europe was once very Christian and everything in the medieval days. And this was like hundreds of years after the Reformation. And then, all the bad religious wars and all this, and then French Revolution and international communities, like the relationships got so bad. And then of course, in Germany and in Europe, was once very Catholic and Christian and everything, all just went to war. And then how Europe just was going to pot. And it really broke his heart, and it really felt so. That's what people are coming up with, that he died of a broken heart, because it really killed him to see what was going on, even though he tried and everything. He would go along. He wasn't perfect, of course, but no, there's no perfect pope. There's no perfect person. I'm not perfect, absolutely. I'm the least perfect of all. We're all human. We're all susceptible to sin. And we must never get too comfortable, never get too proud, or just get to thinking, oh, we made it already and everything. Because pride comes right before the fall. And I got to keep learning that, and God's really keeping me in line on that, and I'm trying my best to let him. But anyway, it's just Pope St. Pius X was a real enemy of all the modernists and everything, and he was and then, okay, so the pious part, but the Aquinas part, the word Aquinas is, Pope Pius X's biggest influence is St. Thomas Aquinas, a great saint of the 13th century of the Dominican order. I mean, he lived, not long after St. Dominic Guzman, who started the order, really, and all his writings and everything were very influential for the church. Many, many centuries, still today. And my buddy Jacob Budd, who I call Jacob Dayton as a nickname, because, I'm a big joker, so is he. Most of my circle of friends, we're full of crazy jokes, so we're full of nicknames. So that's just, I've always had nicknames for everyone for a long time. So, but he's in the Dominican order as a novice until August, and he's making a step up. And I'm praying because he wants to go all the way out and become a priest, after he takes his final vows. And then he'll start taking steps to becoming a Dominican priest. According to his letters, he's really happy there. He's at a monastery out in Oakland. So that's just where he is. So, and he talked very highly of St. Thomas Aquinas. And I didn't really know too much about him because, me, I mostly pay attention mostly to the Franciscans, the Jesuits, and the Benedictines, because those three orders are the most influential, and the saints that founded them, like Benedict and Benedict Norcia and Saint Francis of Assisi and Ignatius Loyola, the founders, and then the orders. They're the biggest influences combined on how I live and everything, and how I view faith and everything in the world. So, yeah, so that's why, I can never make it in just one of those orders. I'll be too, but that's all right. God had me this way for a reason, for whatever reason, I don't know. But they're the most influential to me on the way I live and the way I think and everything. But, but I'm learning that certain Dominican saints, like I know, I've always known a little about St. Dominic Guzman, about the whole rosary and everything and stuff like that, and how he really got the rosary going. But after that, Aquinas, he was, considered a doctor, and of course, what got me into St. Pius X is I have to shout out my boy Acolyte out there in Wichita Falls, Texas, also known, well, now known as Theophorus. He changed his name, his artist name, for his reasons. It was a good one too because he is a very traditional Catholic rapper, and then a lot of the things that he posted, and then I'd say, even though we never met in person and everything, but the things he's posted on social media has really catechized me and everything and stuff that I never really even thought about looking at. Yeah, and then I further studied myself because, of course, he's not shy about speaking out against all the modernism and everything that's plaguing the church, and then why and how it's really messed things up, in the world and in the church and everything, and stuff like that, and he gets a lot of backlash too and everything, but he's not shy. But of course, Jesus always said, always speak up, and then we Christians, we're not looking to be popular and everything and to please everybody, please the world, because the church was never a democratic government, and it still isn't. But we just pray for everyone. We don't condemn the people. Yeah, we may condemn what they do and everything, but we don't condemn the people because a lot of people don't really know. We're never taught. Like, look at me. I was never really taught anything in catechism growing up much. And the things very little things that I could have been taught, I was mostly in survival mode then, or keeping my sanity mode then, everything that was going on. But that's for another story. But so I learned about more, and I read more, watched YouTube videos of stories of St. Pius X, and I was really impressed, and it really did go along with a lot of what I speak about in my music and in general, and what Theophorus, also known as Acolyte, and also my boy Enoch, I'd say, he's another one that really influenced me. But me, then, and I figured out, in a lot of the stories that I heard and read about on St. Pius X, is that his biggest influences was St. Thomas Aquinas, which I've already, like I said, I heard that name a million times from my buddy Jacob. He was always like really fond of him. And now I can see why. Now I understand, what possibly might have led him into the Dominicans and everything. And then, because he's a big rosary lover, and then he's very devoted to the Blessed Mother, and he even adopted the name, for the order, his brother Jacob Mary. So it's not surprising, as devoted as he is to the Blessed Mother, and then he says in his letters, because that's all he doesn't have access to a phone or nothing, so in there, so. Because, he left the world pretty much, but he's allowed to write letters. And the letters that we wrote to each other, he has mentioned it's such a happy life. He wouldn't trade it for the world, which I sort of knew. Excuse me, my face is itching. But anyway, I sort of knew he would like it. And even prior to him mentioning that he was going to pursue religious life and become a priest, that was not a surprise, because I've always felt it was like listening to Christ. And he shares a lot of views about the modernism and everything too, Like I said, he was the one that educated me on all these changes and everything. Like, he's the one who introduced me to the TLM and everything, and then what happened in Vatican II and all that. I didn't know any of that. I was clueless, I was, but now I tend to understand more and everything. It wasn't just him, because I ended up, of course, looking it in for myself too. Because, I'm not just going to take somebody's word and run with it. I go along and study and everything, and I'm like, wow, makes a lot of sense. But it's just the Pius Aquinas is combination, in honor of, Pius, in honor of St. Pius X, and Aquinas in honor of St. Thomas Aquinas, and then, because I've been spending a lot of time studying both, though, like I said, after studying Pius X enough, it got me interested in studying Thomas Aquinas more. So I've been studying those two for the last few months and going through discernment, prayer, in the in adoration and everything, and then for weeks, but then, because I've been considering this name change for a while, but I didn't want to put it out till I made a final decision, and I didn't want to make a final decision until I put a lot of thought and prayer and time into it, and study. So I've been really studying those two saints, and then the part where it says Trentitional Street Catholic of the Cross, the word Trentitional, of course, is the combination of the word Trent after the Council of Trent and traditional. Those two, because another thing I've been studying is the Council of Trent, which is also what my boy Theophorus was really speaks about a lot in his posts and everything, and then his pretty much catechism lessons that he's been giving me, and in his lyrics, And I haven't been mentioning, if you've noticed, I've been mentioning a lot of being as traditional as Council of Trent, which happened, as a counter-reformation, in response to the Protestant Reformation in the 16th, later on in the 16th century. I mean, few decades after Martin Luther started it all, Council of Trent started it. It went on for a long time, starting in the 1540s and ending in the early 1560s, so it was a long council. It was off and on, but finally, it ended. And then the traditional Latin Mass, all the pieces were put together into one. And then all the traditions, were firmly set. Everything was all reaffirmed because, they didn't want all the Protestantism, like changing everything, like all the chaos that it was creating and everything. They didn't want it into the Catholic Church. So it was called, and then, that's another thing I've been studying a lot is the Council of Trent. So that's why I chose that, because I am traditional. I try to be as traditional as the Council of Trent, as I said quite a few times in my songs already. But so that's why I took that name, that word, Trentitional. And I'll admit, putting words together in combination, I'd say Tupac Shakur influenced me, because I found out what when he changed his name to Machiavelli prior to his death, and when his first posthumous album released after the Machiavelli album said the Don Columinati, it turns out those words, the term Columinati, I found out what Illuminati means, like a secret society or infiltrators, whatever, and then the word kill and Illuminati. So turns out that those were combination, and then stuff like that. But that's his thing. That's how I learned to put like words into combinations. So yeah, so that's just partly influence, and I'm sure the man probably had no idea he was going to be influencing some crazy mixed Catholic rapper out in Mesa AZ, out of all things he could have been putting out there, but unintentionally he influenced me on that. So, for something good. So my new name, even though, because I don't know, because how I randomly put out non-album music videos, like say if I get an inspiration or an idea comes to mind, I might, if I got time, because all the busyness I'm probably going to be doing is that, if I do decide to put out non-album tracks prior to the release of my next album, Dead to the World, I'm going to be using the name MC Franco Magdalene, the Street Catholic. So I won't be Pius Aquinas, Trentitional Street Catholic of the Cross, until I release the first song that is going to be included on the next album. So that's if I decide to release non-album tracks at all, because like I said, it's kind of draining, uploading and everything. This computer stuff, it can get very draining and frustrating. So that's why I say I can only do one track at a time, and I can only do one album a day whenever I remaster, because I can't put too much on myself, because of course I've been told that, but I just have to, it's my job to listen, because, that's just what I got to do. So those are my announcements. So hopefully, after Easter, I might, probably after Easter, I'm probably won't be till after Easter until I get everything remastered. Because like I said, of course, when the Holy Week comes up, of course, I decide I'm going to make that week one of my vacation weeks. Holy Week every year and Christmas week are going to be my vacations. From the week of Christmas all the way to New Year's. So I decided I'm going to make those two my vacation weeks. So no music on those weeks. So most likely it won't be till a little after Easter until, when I'm done, remastering everything. And after I remaster, then I'm going to get started with the album. 15 tracks. So it usually takes me a few weeks. I already got the beats together and everything, but of course, I'm going to have to write everything and then record. So it's probably going to take me a few weeks. So I probably won't be putting out a new album, probably closer to May, mid-April to May, God willing, but it could be earlier, could be later, but hopefully prior to May, because I do want to get things done as soon as possible. Not in a rush, of course, but I would like to stay on schedule, and everything. But I just want to let y'all know that that's what I'm going to be doing. So nothing's wrong or anything. So it'll be a little bit before I put out a new album. But I just thought I'd announce it because it's like a new chapter in my music making. So yeah, because I really feel like the name Paiute Aquinas, Traditional Street Catholic of the Cross, really goes along with not just my views, but what I put out, my lyrical content. So I'm very traditional, yeah, but I'm also a street Catholic, because, I got the street mentality, like evangelizing, bringing God's love to the streets because those people, they need God's love more than all, even ones that don't want it or don't know it. Like I bring God's love, like if they want emotional support or I'll help them any way I can, you know, just a random compliment or just a random hello or whatever or and stuff like that can go a really long way. And when I was in their situation all messed up, people were kind to me randomly and everything. And I tell you, that really made an impact. So I can return the favor because, of course, in the Bible, Jesus says, whatever you do to the least, you do to me. Do it to him, because I don't lie in my rhymes when I say that when I see those people out there, and there's a lot of them in this day and age, unfortunately, everywhere you go, everywhere you go. And I will admit, I know some people out there that act more concerned about me and my well-being, and I'm like, this is remarkable than they do themselves, because, sometimes like I say, there are times when I eat at the soup kitchen, I meet these guys and then they share their struggles with me and I share my own struggles and then because I've been where they were. I've slept in the streets. I know what it's like to wonder if you're going to wake up in the morning and a cop's poking you saying you got to move or whatever, or you don't know what's going to happen, and either cold or hot weather, it's like, and they act very appreciative to what I can do. Because see me, I'm not into material things and everything. Like, because as I'm getting older, I'm realizing more and more about myself that what makes a better impact and a better difference, with me is that is like when I end up getting things that money can't buy, like a peace of mind and contentment and just and being let know that I'm cared about, loved, and everything, even though I don't always feel it. Like when someone is just kind to me for no reason, no questions asked, it's not like I'm looking for that, of course, but it's just whenever it happens, as rare as it is, rare it may be, it really makes a difference. So that's why, I like to return the favor or whatever. Like if I know someone, like take my friend Joker, for instance, I mean, like he's a remarkable guy, who cares about his situation, he knows that if I can help him, I could. It's not like I have a lot of money or can do much, but he he always tells me he appreciates everything that I can do, and everything, and that how much it makes a difference, and that really helps me, and it makes me feel like, hey, I'm helping Jesus, because that's just what I see, and then because it's like when it's like I am, it's like if I'm not trying to brag, but I'm just trying to be influential that, because what works for me is that, what helps me most is like because what I want most out of this life is what I'm trying to say are things that no amount of money cannot buy. Things like a peace of mind and contentment now that hurt, and just stability, regardless, it's like, and it's just, and then just be thankful for what I do have and everything instead of longing for what I don't have, wanting, oh, I got to save money, buy this or that, or whatever. I didn't realize what a burden that I was putting on myself back in my younger days until, older, because I unknowingly was robbing myself from enjoying and being thankful for what I actually do have now. It really makes a difference, So it just proves one thing that no amount of money can give you peace of mind, can give you satisfaction, or give you any good outlook or anything or stability, No amount of money. Because look at all these celebrities and everything. They got so much money that they're, and all this like big houses, living in mansions or villas, or like a bunch of expensive cars, expensive everything. I mean, money just up to the sky, and you see how they're real miserable, they're suicidal, in and out, some of them, or, wrapped up on drugs, constantly want to be high, constantly just want to party and do nothing else, or either that, or in and out of jail, and it's just, and of course, no one who's happy or content or at peace would want to be high all the time, or would want to do something, that would get them arrested, or, just, or want to end their life, It just proves one thing, but a lot of us don't get, but we just got to pray, so I just thank God that he brought me to this state of mind, and he let me know. He's still letting me know, because we never stop learning, as long as we're alive, so, yeah, so that's just with the pep talk, but I'm going to end this video with a prayer saying, Lord, I thank you, and thanks for all your blessings, and bless all of us Catholic rappers and all rappers in general, and everyone out there, all my circle of friends, my closest road dog Peter, and my road dog Jacob, who's now Brother Jacob Mary, that he continues on his path, that he reaches his goal to become a priest, and that I can continue putting out good music and everything, and continue to overcome my people-pleasing addiction or whatever. Yeah, and just thanks for your blessings. In nomine Patris, Filii, Spiritus Sancti. Amen.